Piper Jaffray analyst Eugene Munster says Apple has a roadmap in place for the company without CEO Steve Jobs, but the company will have to be careful that it doesn't slip from that foothold. Gene's a Bloomberg Fast analyst on Apple. In fact, is widely regarded as the analyst with the most insight into Apple and Jobs. He joins us from Minneapolis this morning. Gene, welcome to In Business. We've known that Steve's health was in decline and that he had put Tim Cook in a leadership position. Why is the stock down if nothing truly has changed?
I think just the reality of Steve Jobs not being part of the industry, not being part of Apple. I mean, he's the chairman, but he's just not going to be involved. And so I think
chairman,
that
he remains as chairman, right?
He is chairman, but most of the investors that I've talked to today see that as more of a title versus, clearly his health is at a point where he can't be CEO. So I think the expectations on the buy side, the reason why the stock is down, I think investors are kind of factoring in that even though he's chairman, he won't be as active as chairman. And so I think the reality of this is there's always hope that he would just continue and come back as CEO full time. And I think the fact that he is not going to do that is why the stock is down.
Yeah, that idea that a chairmanship is almost symbolic was something that I was hearing as well. What then becomes Apple's next big win? I mean, in some ways, the stakes have been raised for Tim Cook to prove himself.
Definitely, and he just sent that email to his employees a few minutes ago and talked about how the best days of Apple are still ahead, which obviously is the right thing to say at a time like this. But we think that the innovation there's still innovation to come, and I think the biggest area that Steve Jobs had an impact in that I think the world hasn't quite seen yet is what they're going to do in the television in the living room. And they have a product there today, but it's kind of a placeholder of a product. So as far as what's next for Tim Cook, it's really continuing to drive the iPhone and the iPad, and then what we think is going to be the television, the next leg to this story. And that should take them for the better part of the next 3 to 5 years.
When does that launch, Apple TV?
Well, our belief is that it's the end of 2012 or beginning of 2013, so we still have some time here, but that's our expectation.
And do you intend in any way to change your outlook on the stock, your price targets, the kind of growth that Apple can have with a new leader at its helm?
Well, right now, we've been factoring this in since January, since he took his medical leave of absence, and so we've been expecting this to come, and so it doesn't necessarily impact our numbers, but I mean, clearly, beyond 5 years, that's something our models aren't going out to. That's where you would really see the impact of Steve Jobs not a part of Apple.
Who, in some ways, could benefit by just the idea that the market is questioning a technology world without Steve Jobs in it? Is there anyone who could truly threaten Apple at this point?
You could argue that other players in the mobile market could benefit. Companies like HTC or Google with Motorola, even potentially BlackBerry, which might be hard to believe, but they could even see a benefit. That's all assuming that the innovation curve slows down. And so this wouldn't be a benefit in the next year or 2 years, but maybe longer term beyond that. If Apple's not able to maintain this top talent that they have, that, I think, is where the problem happens. If they're able to maintain the top talent and culture, I don't think you're going to see any difference in the next several years.
What do you think Steve Jobs' sort of final act is here? I mean, will we see him again? Will he be out there unveiling Apple TV, or is this truly Tim Cook's show?
I think Steve is still, to the extent that he can be a part of things, I think he still will. As you had mentioned, I think it's largely symbolic now, but I think in major product announcements, I think you could still see him be a part of that. And so as long as, if his health is willing, I definitely think he's going to be, you're going to see him again. We think that the big event that he's done over the past, the big accomplishment he's had over the past couple of years is really grooming this team for a succession. As I've talked to investors today, they all put this team ahead of all the other CEOs in tech, and so he's done a good job with that.
All right, Eugene Munster, thank you so much.